Hello, beautiful divine souls. Welcome to Goddess Unleashed or Goddess of Rebirth, the podcast, the space where we dive deep into the heart of what makes our lives truly meaningful. I'm Monica, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have you join us for today's episode. I have an epic guest with me, and I cannot wait to introduce her a little bit into this space. Katya, how are you? Welcome to this podcast.
Hello, Monica. I'm very glad to be here, and I'm super excited about our podcast today because we prepared some very interesting questions about relationships, which we're going to discuss today. And I think that a lot of women can benefit from that because this knowledge I normally give on my coaching, not for free. So today we're going to just share them, and I hope if you use them and utilize, then actually your love life will improve. So
Indeed. And today we're going to be unraveling secrets about how to cultivate and find, foster a healthy relationship. High value relationship. That's a term that Katya has been using and I'm loving it. High value relationship. High value men and women. And we all know that relationships foster a crucial role in our happiness, our well-being. So understanding the dynamics or how to work in and for a healthy, enriching relationship is absolutely crucial. Um, Katya, tell me a little bit about who you are to begin with. You're a relationship coach. What does that mean? What do you do? How do you help people?
I'm a relationship and dating coach, and I help women, as you mentioned already, to build healthy, committed relationship with men. So normally, women come to me when they're going through the breakups or divorce. This is like the most common, like like break point for ladies where they like, okay, I'm done having such relationships. I want to have something healthy, real, long term. How can I do this? And I'm basically taking them through the steps how they can actually either improve their relationships with the current partners, because sometimes we don't need to look for somebody else. We already have the person, but we need to reframe these toxic patterns. And sometimes these relationships ended and it is what it is, so we need to move on. And how? Because a lot of women get stuck in their mind overthinking every word, every text, and like, what did he say, what does he mean, is he thinking of me? Like, and this can like spiral into like this crazy mode, which can influence the other sectors of your life, that you can't work, you can't sleep, you can't eat properly. It happens a lot, let's be clear. Like, who didn't go through the breakup? It sucks. So you can either like extend this and go through it alone and spend a lot of time on like healing and doing and making lots of mistakes on the way, or you can come to me. I take you through this quickly, and then we get safely on the dating scene or improve the relationship with the current partner. So I'm basically saving time for women. Let's put it this
Yeah.
way.
And what's really funny, what you just said is like you deal with a lot of people who are going through breakup and heartbreak and stuff. But that what's really funny is that we usually look for help when we're in deep pain.
Yeah.
We're in desperation, and then we're like, somebody, I need you to point me out of the way. But you know what? I feel like cultivating a healthy relationship should be a lifestyle. Like you don't go there when you're completely broken and undone, but every single day you do something little perhaps to path to make the way to
Like
have a lifestyle like
I honestly, I wish it was the case, but let's be clear. Like, people are getting, like, nobody likes changes. That's why, like, we wait until something is completely broken until we change it, because we do not recognize the problem, and our brain uh, hates changes, any kind of changes. Come on, like, you need to change the routine. You're like, oh my god, do I really need it? And when it's about the relationships, it's even harder because we already develop habits, we develop the routines. And admitting the fact that like you're not satisfied completely with what's going on, like if you're like somewhere at like 50%, where it's like it's okay, it's kind of working, you're not going to change anything. Like, very few people are ready to do the change if they're not satisfied with 10%. Like, usually we get to the very bottom and then we take an action. Like, It is what it is, unfortunately, and
It
I
is.
don't yeah, I don't see the way how it can be changed, because like literally a lot of women text me, for example, when they're like, "Oh my God, like I can't do this anymore." Then they disappear for a month. They still try to do something on their own, even though I told them like, you will like with this particular pain, we're gonna deal within a week, and you will be
Mm.
feeling better. They they wait for a month, they do their own things, and then they're like, after a month, they're like, "Okay, I'm done." I'm ready for help. But and they already wasted a month of their life or two waiting for that. Like because and it's a problem, by the way, for like strong, high value, empowered women usually, because there is a tendency of taking the responsibility for our lives. But we forget that like mentorship takes you through that faster, and coaching specifically. That's what
Mm.
it's created for. But we think that like, oh, for relationships, like what can I learn? Like I know all the basic stuff. Knowing and doing are two different things.
Tell us a little bit about this concept that you have developed, Lady Power. It's a training, it's a program that you lead, and it's all about women's empowerment and how to have a healthy relationship. Tell
Yeah.
me about that. What is a lady power? What's the definition? How do we live like that?
So Lady Power was my first training, which I actually developed. Now I have four of them for different needs. But Lady Power is like my main training, which goes for like 30 days. And usually I do coaching for 2 months with women while they're doing it. The whole point of it is to first to discover yourself, to build this foundation, because like we find out like after the breakup usually that like, okay, who am I today? Because especially women who've been in a long-term relationships or in a cycle of relationships, after 10 years they realize that like actually what I wanted in my 20s I don't want in my 30s or my 40s. So who am I today? So we first go into this discovery path, identifying their beliefs, working with fears, expectations, boundaries, communication, like all of these basics which you need to understand for yourself to make sure that you become this healthy, secure partner. And then once we build this foundation, you have energy to actually deal with your baggage. A lot of people have this misconception about like, we first need to deal with the baggage. You have no energy for this in the beginning to deal with baggage. Let's be clear. Like it's a real life. If I start throwing you into your past patterns, you're going to be devastated because there would be no motivation to work through this. So first we need to build the foundation, then reframe the patterns from the past so you don't carry them on the future relationship. And then we're going to go in the attraction mode. Actually, how do we attract this high value man that we believe match our standards? And it's actually so funny. All the women come to me, like not all, but like vast majority, they say, maybe my standards are so high, that's why I can't meet the right man. Yeah, sounds familiar, right? But the funny
It
thing,
sounds very familiar.
it's yeah, like, but the funny thing, like all of them who said so, all of them find out that their standards are very low. And that's why they were not being able to meet the men who matched their standards, because they were just trying to watch out for this bare minimum. And then of course they're not satisfied with that. So my job is to make sure that you actually don't settle for less, that you actually go after your standards. You don't waste time on the men who are not worthy of your time. And then from after attraction, we are going into their, okay, how we can ensure from the very beginning that you have the committed long-term relationships. Because my approach is not dating for dating. Like some women choose to take some time just to explore, have fun, but this is a rare case. Majority choose to actually, they do dating for marriage. So that's why we look into their committed relationships. Okay, does this person match on our with our values? Does this person actually can navigate conflicts? What to do when the first misunderstandings happen? And because they do, conflicts appear like you want it or not. Okay, how do we deal with this? And once you basically go through this program, that's when you gain the full lady power, and you feel empowered. You don't settle for less anymore. You don't agree for all these uh, hot and cold games, all this casual bullshit. You can see the red flags and you don't find them attractive anymore.
I love that. I love that. I feel like, and you were speaking a little bit of what I was trying to get to before. Having this strong foundation it's key. It's crucial to have a long lasting, healthy relationship. Which in my experience, from what I observe and my own experience, I feel like we all get too much into. We want to build an empire with a very shaky foundation. Like
Hmm.
we're not even sure who we are. We don't really know what we want. We don't even like ourselves, but we expect other people, to come and love me and show me how beautiful I am. But I don't feel beautiful, but you got to show me. You got to make me feel. And I do feel like sometimes that's kind of like our responsibility first, to fill in all of these gaps and these things that we have inside that are not completely functioning properly in the healthier way. And then we can go ahead and attract what we're seeking for.
Like everybody knows it. Like it's easier said than done. Let's be clear.
For sure.
Like that's why like it's very difficult to believe actually that like, oh my god, I'm so amazing and perfect and worthy of life after like the person you actually loved just broke up with you, or you broke up. Like it doesn't matter, the relationship ended. But the whole point is to shift your focus from like you, like from him to you. Because uh, your foundation, your self-esteem, like your value shouldn't depend on any externals. Like this is their main like one of the main things about my job. It's not just communication, boundaries and all of that. You have to make this shift to be able to focus on yourself all the time. So that's how you learn to actually to deal with rejection easily. Because once you realize, like imagine how many women reject men in bars, for example. You can reject 10 guys easily in like 20 minutes, and you're like, "Pfft, I don't care." And guys take it very in a very simple way, but for women, they get rejected by one man and they're like, oh my god, how dare he, am I not good enough? I mean, like, did he gain weight? What's going on? Because like women don't have never developed this skill of dealing with rejection. And this is like, and when women actually start realizing, okay, I like my status, like who I am has nothing to do with anybody around. And once you understand this, like really recognize this, and you build a new pattern, a new mindset in your head, that's when you can easily get into healthy relationships and find the life partner. Because men who don't like you, okay, that's fine. I'm not supposed to be liked by everybody. Like,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Why do you think that it's harder for women to develop this skill? Is it something that we experience in childhood or?
no, it's not harder. It's because we never developed this. It's like women come to me and they assume that they are supposed to have a healthy family, for example. And they ask them, like, have you ever learned how to build healthy relationships? And they're like, no. I was like, then why do you think it's supposed to work? Like we learn about nutrition, we learn how to train in gym properly, we learn how to do our jobs well. Like we learn all of that, but we don't learn about relationships. And
Oh
then we
yeah.
expect it suddenly to work. And rejection is just a small part of it. Like it's one of the skills which you can develop, but you never did. So why do you expect to handle rejection easily?
I do like that you're touching about these skill, this specific and very specific about rejection. My other question for you: what are the emotional benefits for a woman who embodies lady power, this concept, in her relationships, and how does this approach impact her emotional well-being and self-esteem? Which is a little bit of what you were telling us about. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Oh, tremendously. The impact is huge because first of all, we are addressing emotional boundaries. Like when I'm speaking about boundaries, it's not just physical or sexual, or like there are also financial boundaries. There are there are also time boundaries. There are like lots of them, and emotional boundaries one of the most difficult to build actually, because we tend to, like, we're humans. If you're especially an empathetic woman, like it's very hard not to get affected when somebody is getting sad or angry, like because like we women are supposed to be mothers, so we must have this empathy, we must feel what other people feel. So that's why for women it's very important to actually address the emotional boundaries, to not get affected by other people's emotions and actions, because our emotions and actions are ours and they belong to them, and we need to be able to separate us from them. This is the core basics of the boundaries, basically, when we stop taking responsibility for other people's emotions. And once you understand this concept, and once you can actually understand, okay, I'm feeling upset right now. Is it because of somebody sad or somebody's feeling, or is it my emotions? And this recognition of emotions, this recognition of how your body feels, because you have to be able to not watch out like what you say, or like, are you laughing? Because a lot of women, for example, they can, their one of their psychological defense mechanisms is laugh. For example, they start making jokes, they're like trying to avoid this topic, and ha ha ha, it's so fun, it's so great, but in fact inside they're dying. And this like and you have to be able to be honest with yourself, and once you recognize what you're actually feeling, usually you get over it very fast, because we need to first recognize, then be able to learn what to do with this and separate us from other people. And a lot of women take it wrong, because they think that like, oh my god, what if I'm become cynical, I don't want to become a narcissist, like narcissist, like is such a buzzword right now. And you're not going to become a narcissist if you simply start being responsible for your own emotions, and stop being okay with others doing bullshit, and be okay with their like bullshit behavior. Like it's not going to make you a narcissist or a cynical person.
That's so crazy how many, and that resonates with me, because many of the women I know have never asked for anything. They have always been so good at pleasing, serving, forgetting about themselves. I'm always here for somebody else. And
Hmm.
so when you say like, oh, you gotta put a boundary there, they're like, wait, no, how me? No, what if I hurt their feelings? What if they need me? What if, like, no.
Like it's okay to be there for others. Like you don't have to kill your kindness. Like I'm not like
Oh
I'm
yeah.
actually when I work with women, I tell them this is their strength, that they're so kind. But the problem is they are projecting their kindness on the wrong people, who do not value that, who do not deserve that, as simple as that. For example, I worked with like one of my recent cases. Their lady was married for over 10 years to like a very narcissistic man who really never appreciated her kindness. And she wanted still to make this relationship work, because imagine like 10 years of marriage. Like I have more cases like that, like 10, 15, 20 years marriage. And once she actually recognized that he really is disrespectful, he doesn't value her kindness, no matter how much she does, he doesn't give a shit. And it's very hard. And this is like a rejection again, because you think like we believe that world is fair, that like I do good, good comes to me. But it is true, but not necessarily from this particular person. And that's what we need to understand. We need to be kind, we need to be good, empathetic, etc. But it doesn't mean that like if you're being kind to this particular person, they're going to be kind back to you. Like let's be clear, the world is not a fair place. And once you understand this and actually start watching the reality, the facts, okay, he acts like shit. Like why are you supposed to be okay with this? And this is a time when you need to understand that, okay, I can walk away. And if the person is still doing nothing, like okay, before walking away there are a lot of other steps, which we were doing, like communicating, conflicts, like all of this. And then when nothing worked and you walking away and he still doesn't care, it's time to choose yourself and recognize that, like, okay, this person doesn't deserve it. You need
And I
to
feel
choose yourself.
sorry. Yeah, and I feel like about what you're saying is it's about, and that's exactly what you're teaching women. How do you value yourself so
Mhm.
that you don't waste your time, you don't waste your gifts? Like this is a beautiful example of how women sometimes they're devalued simply because they have never been given the option to explore how much they can receive. You know, like they're
Mhm.
really good at giving, but they have never received because they don't know how to. And this is exactly what you're helping women to do, like how that to feel that value that you have, that you are. That's such a beautiful, beautiful work. Also, how it's so important to have financial boundaries. I feel like not that many women have talked about that. I probably, this is the first time that I it came to my mind, like how do I set up a financial boundary with my partner? So tell me a little bit more about how do you teach, or how this concept of lady power ties into financial independence and stability for women in relationships.
So first of all, it's different for everyone. Like I
Mm.
literally, like it depends what is right for you. So my concept is about helping women to recognize what is right for them. There is no right or wrong way. I have women who admit after like working with me that, like, I want a man to provide everything for me, and that's okay. Like it is that's what she wants. And guess what? Then she meets a partner who does it, and she's comfortable in this position because she was like raised where she was seeing the man as a provider. So that's the only way. And like it doesn't matter how much money she makes. She makes a lot of money. It doesn't matter. But that's what, and she felt a lot of shame about like wanting that, and that's what we've been working with. So it's like boundaries is like very strongly connected with your standards, like how you feel about it. And only once you become completely honest with yourself about what you want, then you can set your financial boundaries and be open with your partner about it. So for example, in this example, like she met an amazing man who is one of the top managers, like in a huge company. I'm not going to name it, but like trust me, everybody knows it. And they've been traveling the world. Everything is going amazingly and great because she finally realized what she wants. Another example I have, a woman, she, for example, for her, she wants 50-50. Like that's how she was raised, and she feels comfortable about this. She wants partnership. She sees them to be there for each other. So like for her, it's working great. Others understand that, like, okay, I want, for example, them to pay for our dates, travelings, but for example, we are separating housing. It depends on each person. You need to be honest with what is okay for you, and only then you can set your financial boundaries, because once you understand what's right for you.
And we were talking a little bit about that before we started recording, but how in order to get to a healthy relationship, the one that we dream of, sometimes we need to face our biggest fears and our
Mhm.
biggest wounds. In order to heal that, you need to face it. There's no way like you run away from it, or you kind of like ignore it forever, and then you get your dream relationship, but you got to face that darkness. I feel like there's this fear sometimes, and I'm sure that it's in both men and women, to actually face that shame, to face that fear, rejection, isolation, providership, finances, like all of the different aspects. What will be your advice in that regard to people who are frozen by the fear of, I don't want to face being rejected, or whatever the fear or the wound or the abandonment? What's the main advice that you have for women or men who are dealing with that?
No, there are exercises to deal with fear. Like it's not like shame. So first of all, shame and fear are two different things. Like
Mhm.
shame is a huge topic. Like, and it's usually I don't even like give particular exercises for shame, is because like shame for everybody is received differently, because shame is irrational completely. So when we can feel shame for something which doesn't make any sense, and that's why it's so difficult to recognize and actually uncover. While guilt is very clear, you did something bad, like you can say sorry, or you can just like move on from that, like take accountability. Guilt is very understandable point. As for fears, dealing with fears is very important. I normally we work with like fear of rejection, fear of what if I meet the wrong partner, what if I overinvest and it's not going to work again, what if that, like one of the cool I usually like give several exercises for that, so we work through this, and then by the end of the day you're already not afraid of this anymore, and you're ready to face your fears. One of the cool exercises, which is like very popular and you can do it on your own, is developing the worst case scenario. Okay, what's going to happen if you get rejected? What, you're gonna get upset, you're gonna call a friend, you're gonna cry for a little while, then you're gonna recover, and then what's next? But this approach gets the side effect. That's why a lot of women actually, especially strong women, who are more fearless, or they make it as an excuse that like, oh, I don't have this fear. So after the breakup they start acting desperately, begging and running after the man, because like, oh my god, I don't care what they think, I'm gonna do everything which is in my power to like to make it work. But they just make it an excuse for them, because they are actually afraid of losing them. So they take a lot of wrong actions because they feel emotional, and as a result, like, and this is like when you need to understand where the fear really sits. They think they're not afraid of rejection, that's why they're running after the man back. And you should never chase men, ever. He left, let him be. Work on yourself, move on, deal with your emotions, get to gym, go to ballet, I don't know, do like do things for your own. And once he crawls back, because they always come back, I don't know anybody who never come back, really. They always come back. You're going to be fresh, sound, and have a fresh look at him. Do you even want him or not? But women who are strong, they think that, like, no, I'm going to lose this opportunity, because they are afraid of this lost opportunity. They're afraid of rejection, and they tell themselves, I'm not afraid of rejection, but they feel about they're afraid of being abandoned, and they mistake these things. So as a result, they think they don't act based on fear, but that's exactly what they're doing.
Based on what you're saying, I feel like sometimes we spend longer fearing, facing the fear, than if we actually would just sit down with it and say, like, you know what? I am terrified of being abandoned, and abandon me. I need to feel it, and I need to get to the root of it, and I need to heal it, I guess. But we spend so much time running away from that, like fearing, like, please don't, that we lose time,
Mhm.
rather than we could move that really really fast, as you were saying, like, let's work on it. In a few days you're gonna get over it, rather than spending a month in the same toxic behavior.
Mhm. Yeah, but that's the thing. It's about taking an action. This is the biggest,
Hmm.
like, this is the biggest issue which women are facing. They believe that like if you uh, go after, like go in your fear, the problem's going to be fixed. But you can
Hmm.
harm yourself if you blindly go into like uh, inside your fear. That's why it's better to have guidance and to
Oh
be,
yeah.
because otherwise you can find yourself feeling terrible afterwards, and you will develop a new pattern which is gonna like not gonna serve you well. Like, oh, so I did the fearless move, and look where I'm now. I'm so
Hmm.
stupid. And they kill their self-esteem.
Hmm.
So it's like it's a very interesting topic, and it's much bigger than we think it is. Being fearless uh, can be stupid. So we don't
For
have to
sure.
be fearless. We just don't have to act out of fear, and those are two different things.
Your experience with this program that you develop is based on your own experience. Am I right? Like you went through your own breakup and then you started studying about like how do I get over, how do I attract the kind of man that I want. So tell me a little bit how the lady power, how was it born?
That's an interesting part. So when I was what, 25 or 26, I think, I just broke up with my boyfriend with whom like our families met. Like we've been long term. We had dogs together, like all of this stuff, like living together in Shanghai. And but at some point I realized that our relationships are so toxic. It was it was shocked because it didn't happen in 1 minute, it was happening gradually. We've been traveling a lot, like there were a lot of great things which were going on in our relationships, but on daily life, as a result, it came to the point where he was screaming at me every day, like, you work too much, you don't spend enough time with me. Like, it was never enough. Whatever I was doing, it was never enough. It was always my fault for anything. And at some point I was just like not even communicating when he was screaming at me, and I was like, okay, whatever. And it's draining. And then I found myself not going home and staying in the office late. How sick is that? Like, it's like it was terrible. And yeah, and then at our next fight, like, I realized, okay, I'm done. And we ended the relationship. And instead of thinking, okay, how this could happen to me, it's not my mindset from to start with. I was like, what did I do wrong that I got in this point? Like, literally, what was I doing wrong that, like, that my beautiful loving relationships turned into that mess? And that's when I started learning just everything. I was consuming information like crazy. Okay, first I tried to deal with the breakup. I started dating my ex-boyfriend, and I went and I got a lot of like extra jobs. Like, oh my god, I was like 24/7 busy. I lost a lot of weight. Imagine my emotional state. It was not the best. So that's when I realized a few months that, like, okay, I'm again doing something wrong. And because, like, I'm not where I want to be, like, dating right away was not the best idea. Working too much was not the best idea. Pretending like nothing happens is not the best idea. So I started learning, and I realized that's when I actually learned about the concept of boundaries, because I thought I had great boundaries. I thought I'm so strong. I was always able to say no. And then I realized that there is a huge gray zone in between where you set your boundaries. And I was like, man, like, how did that happen to me? How couldn't I see, like, all these warning signs, and why my needs are not met? Like, how, at what point I was like stretching them step by step. So that's when I realized, okay, boundaries is a huge topic, I need to understand it. Then I started like watching out my communication, because I was like, all right, like, he was screaming at me, how was I replying? I realized that I was like many women, passive aggressive, blaming, like, also like making these like toxic comments. It's like, ah, you're always doing this. Like, it's not improving the station. Like, you should never communicate this way. So I started learning about communication a lot. I was like, okay, how am I supposed to communicate in a healthy way so I've been heard? And you know what's funny? 6 or 7 months later, because we had dogs together, so we kept in touch. Uh, I learned already about this stuff, and I was like, okay, I'm ready to talk to him, like to my ex, and we had a very decent conversation. And since then, we're actually still friends. We're very good friends right now, and like, he can help me out, I can help me out if we need to. Like, okay, our love died Like, let's be clear, we never got back together, we never had any like anything between us, but we kept a very good friendship because the communication wasn't working for us. I didn't have boundaries, he didn't know how to communicate, I set my boundaries, boom, it suddenly worked for us. So yeah, that was a like crazy understanding for me. Then afterwards I realized, okay, I'm being too masculine. Because imagine running a business, doing different projects, living in Shanghai, it's a big demanding city, you need to like to do a lot of this. Like I was dressing like very feminine, but I wasn't acting feminine with men. I was very strong because I am strong. But how can you balance this? And when I met my ex-boyfriend, he was telling me that like, oh my god, you're the most feminine woman I've ever met. And I was like, okay, I did good job here. And that's when I actually realized that like I was doing the right, I was taking the right steps. I found my personal balance, I learned communication, I learned how to set boundaries. And okay, how can I then make it into the long term? What is important for the long term? So I made the huge research in order to actually compile Lady Power. It's not just my personal experience. I read pretty much everything which is like available, researches about communication, healthy relationships, committed relationships, love, dating. There is a lot of data about this already. There are people doing experiments about the relationships for dozens of years already. So it's all available already. You have this knowledge, and I compile them into my program. So that's how it's been developed. It's not just my experience, but also the knowledge from their top universities, top researchers, top labs who are investigating love and what is proven to work. I compiled it into Lady Power. Women started doing it. I see that it's working. They have healthy relationships, they meet their partners, they're doing everything like, and it works. So I have the proof of concept because of the results my clients are having now.
Yeah, it's a success. If
Yeah.
you, Katya, tell me, where do they find you on Instagram? Because if people are curious about you, or they want to see the testimonials, they want to see how your clients are speaking so highly about the value of this program and everything that you teach, just go ahead and check her out. She's on Instagram. What's your handle, Katya?
My handle is actually on the screen. It's called Kittinson. It's
Mm,
Kittinson. Kittinson.
perfect.
It's
Perfect.
yeah, it's been the nickname for like 12 years since I started Instagram, so I never changed it.
I think it's really cute.
Thank you.
I have one last question for you. How can women find this balance, and how can they be still authentic and ask for what they need, including also being vulnerable without being exposed and being hurt, or even falling into games in a relationship?
Okay, first of all, some playfulness is good. Like
Mm,
uh, women always like not to fall into extremes. First of all,
mm,
because playfulness is amazing. Teasing is great. You know, we can play games. It's just like as long as you're not trying to manipulate, as you said, because sometimes like being playful and funny, like come on, it just brings more joy to the relationships. Because if you're just sitting in your masculine and saying like I want this, I want that, this is the only way how it's going to work for me, men are going to run away from you. Let's be clear. Like it's not going to work this way. Only like mama boys or really weak guys would be like, oh, okay, okay, that's what you want. Like, but then you would be disrespecting this man, and as a result, if you disrespect the guy, the attraction is going to die eventually. So it's not going to work. That's why the way how you actually uh, like express your needs in a feminine way, it's important. You can do this easily if you utilize your masculine in the right direction. For example, I personally leave all my masculine at my work. When I'm a coach, I'm like, I need to be straight to the point. I need to keep the space. I need to lead women. I need to be strong with them and for them as well. So that's where like I use a lot of my masculine energy there. So when I come home and I'm with men, I was like, ah, Han, like, okay, what are we gonna do? Oh, let's go out. What do you want to eat? Oh, I don't know. Choose something for me. Like I'm not even like for example, I hate choosing food. Like it's like like I don't know. It's just my thing. I don't like choosing food, and I love when my partner is choosing food for me. It's like our thing. So when it's happening, it's like, and it is a like an example of feminine behavior when you allow man to lead. Like, but for example, if he tells you that, oh, you're not eating this is already the moment when you need to set boundaries. And like, and you can do it in different ways. You can either say that like, I don't want this, and you just express what you want or don't want. For example, you can use the escalation of your boundaries. You say first, oh, it's really important for me. If the partner is still not hearing you, then you can set up a consequence. Hon, if you continue like speaking to me this way, I'm afraid we're gonna need to end this conversation, or we can get back to it another time. You see, it's a very smooth way to enter this conversation. Or you can say, no, why are you speaking to me this way? It's a big difference. What do you think man is going to hear better, first or second option?
Same for us. I mean, what do you want to hear? Do you want people to speak to you in a harsh way? Because communicate, I mean, we all communicate all day long. That's just the fundamental. But how do we like people to communicate with us? We should reciprocate that.
For, with women, why they actually act in their masculine speaking to men, because they're trying to compete to them. There
Mm.
is no competition with men. There is none. Like you can just be a woman and like, okay, I need to be taken care on. Like, come on, like, okay, what? Okay, I want to. I saw this dress, and women believe that like, oh, if they start acting this way, they're gonna be stupid. No, men love this. Men love taking care of women because they, or for example, coming for advice for them. Like, oh, hon, I don't know what to do about this. Can you help me? What are your thoughts? Like, men this way, when women actually start acting from their feminine, men become more masculine, even if you're already in the relationships, because you're giving this uh, power to them to be masculine. And the dynamic then gets to the right direction where men lead, because all women want men to lead. Let's be clear. Women don't want to be this strong man in the house. Who the hell wants it? Tell me. Nobody. And whoever says they're okay with this, they're lying to themselves. And when women, like for real, and when women actually start acting from their feminine and men becoming their masculine, that's when everybody's happy. And if, for example, and usually in this case, men are more caring, men are more respectful, because they actually start recognizing the needs of the women, because they're like, okay, I need to protect her, I need to take care of her. But okay, of course, there is a different extreme about toxic masculinity where it's already like gets through the point. And that's exactly why you need to know your needs and you need to know how to set your boundaries, so you don't fall to any of those extremes where you become dependent completely on the man without like having any kind of choice, to where you are commanding the guy. So it's like it's all about the balance.
Yeah, I do feel like I have a little bit more. I feel like my idea, my concept of how the relationship works is a little bit more fluid. I am not that much into, and I mean, we talk about things that I didn't know before, and you clarify for me at the beginning before we were recording. But I don't feel like I am that attracted to that relationship where the man is the man and the woman is a woman. Like, I'm more fluid. I do love my feminine side, and I do love to be super girly, but I also like my masculine side, and I also like that my husband has like both. He's a very balanced in both energies. Like, he has a very tender, sweet side, but he's also his own masculine. He knows how to lead. I feel like it's a very fluid situation in him, in me. I do like that. I do also feel like this conversation. I don't know about you, Katya. You probably have a different opinion on that, but I do have a different idea about gender roles. So when we're talking about men and women and these roles, I'm pretty open to say that this is open to other kind of relationships as well. Maybe it's not only a man and a woman, but maybe it's a different gender or different kind of relationship. And I think that's also very acceptable, very healthy. Tell me what's your opinion about that?
That's what I was talking about, balance. Like that's why
Mhm.
you have to understand your own needs because it's fluid for everyone.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I can be in my feminine, but I can also be very strong and speak up and being very straightforward with my partner. It has nothing to do with like that's what a lot of women do not understand. Femininity is not being stupid. Femininity is not being like, oh my God, you do everything. No,
Mhm.
no. But being feminine is being balanced and being able to receive. That's what femininity is. So it's always fluid because all of us, men and women, we all have feminine and masculine side. If we're speaking about their gender roles, like again, I told you from like in the middle when we're speaking about financial boundaries, some women want the man to be a provider, other women want 50-50. And it's important to understand what's right for you. There is no rules for that. It's just what's right for you. That's it. And if we're speaking about gender, particularly, like for example, if we're talking about LGBTQ community, I worked with same gender couples, uh, du- and communication, fears, it all works the same. Boundaries, concept, like all of this, exactly the same as with between men and women. It's just we are just addressing men and women because they are the vast majority. Let's be fair. So that's it's as simple as that. LGBT community is simply smaller. So and there are people who address them specifically. So like it's just basically it's just not my niche. And but I work with people, and I recognize that communication is very similar, but for them is more difficult to this like what's called like this fluid balance. uh, I still believe that one of the people needs to. And when, for example, I noticed when they were, for example, two women I've been working with, for them it was like one of their things which was difficult is to how to find this balance where they take care of each other and they actually identify who is doing what, when is it enough, what is right, what is wrong. And as a result, while I was observing their relationships, they got into very abusive relationships, which was like it was painful to watch, to be honest, because uh, the dynamics shifted for them. In the beginning, one was taking the lead, then another one started to fight it back, and then as a result, it was a typical abusive relationship, which was, yeah, like I don't know how it's gonna be for them, to be honest. Like I'm not their coach right now. They just got one session with me last year, but it's very painful to watch this example. So gender wise, it really doesn't matter as long as you recognize your roles, because like women sometimes think that like, oh, if I start dating women then I can avoid abusive relationships. No, you can't. They're
Mhm.
also,
I love that. I love that. It's a human
it's a human, exactly.
thing, right? Yeah, exactly. I love how you put it that way. Um, Let me ask you one last question. Did I say that that was my last question before? Did I?
Okay. One more.
Okay. I don't know if I said that that was my last question, but well, so just closing the loop, you were talking about rejection at the beginning. We talked a little bit about rejection. And I think my last question is what would be a piece of advice, something practical that women can do to navigate the dating world, to handle rejection and perhaps an unreciprocated interest in a healthy and empowered way. What I mean by that is when the man or the partner or the other person shows no interest in you. And you talked about that at the beginning, but what would be one practical piece of advice that you have for women to handle these?
Try to go on 50 dates within 3 months, for example, you would be easily taking rejection because the value of each prospect gonna be decreasing. So it's just about your personal goal and the value of each prospect. Once you find the right position for each of them, it's going to be super easy for you. Like I have one of my clients, she is 36. She wanted badly to get married and have a family when she came to me, and she's been in the cycle of toxic relationships nonstop. And when she came, she actually got into a healthy relationship. Like she first was dating one guy, then she started dating. And when I told her that she needs to go to 15 dates, she was like, no way. Like, because usually the first 3 to 5 dates is a complete disaster. Like, especially after women learn about themselves, like, and you need, and I'm telling, you need to watch your body language. You need to talk about this. You need to talk about that. You need to ask these questions. You need to speak up about this. And they're like, oh my God, this is so much. I was like, it's okay. You go to 5 dates, then it's going to be easy. You just need to say it out loud one time. Then it's become a habit. So she went, and on day 6 or 7, I think, she met her boyfriend. They started dating. 3 months later, she calling me. She was like, I need to break up with him because he's not like, I don't want to get married with him. I was like, okay, up to you. uh, 7 months later, she's started continued dating again, and she texted me in summer. She was like, you know what's one of the best things I learned is to, I don't care about being rejected. Like, I just don't care about this because I know what I want. I know by the end of the day I need just one man. And she texted me a couple of weeks ago that she's been seeing a guy for 2 or 3 months already, and she's like, I think that's going to be my future husband. And I'm like, "Mm."
Gosh, isn't life wonderful when you get to hear those experiences from the people that you
Oh,
found them like completely broken, and then you're like, come on, we can do it, you can do it, and then you hear that. Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful.
oh, I love
I
it. Like, the amount of gratitude I receive with this job, like it's unbelievable. Like I've never had any, like I've never been involved in something like that where you receive that much gratitude.
Wow,
So no,
that
okay,
is so.
because even when I was doing volunteering for dogs, honestly, and like working with pets, people complain all the time. You help them, they still complain. But
What?
like for real, like it's actually so many sectors of our life is connected to love, and because it's like
Mm,
it's one of our basic needs, health, like stability. We need love, all of us. And once this is covered, you already feel stronger and better. So
mhm.
of course, it's like it's a huge impact in their lives, and they understand it because they're happy, and that's
Wow.
why I'm so grateful. And then they share it to me, and I'm also happy.
I am so touched by hearing your experiences, all your knowledge, but especially by hearing how your life's mission is is so moving, and it's so all about love. As you nailed it down here at the closing statement, it's all about love. Life is all about love, and that's such a beautiful lifestyle that you lead other people into. I'm really grateful that you share with us your wisdom, your knowledge. I also think that many people in the audience will find very valuable insights in what you share. Katya, your guidance has been enlightening. And as we are closing, ending up this episode, I would like to ask you, is there anything that you would like to add? Anything else that comes to your mind?
I'm gonna repeat again: never chase man, know your value, and don't settle for less.
Yes, please. That last part. To all our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Remember, the path to a fulfilling relationship starts with understanding yourself and valuing what you bring to the table. Katya, it's been such a pleasure and an honor to hear your journey, your story, what you're doing. I'm so grateful that you took the time to be with us today. Thank you so much.
Monica, thank you for having me here. It's been my pleasure to come and maybe see you again.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. Please be my honor guest. We have so much more to talk about for sure. Thank you
Oh,
so much. I'll
love
send you all my love.
I am thrilled to have you in my circle, and I am buzzing with excitement to conjure up some magic together. Remember, in Goddess Unleashed, we don't just talk the talk, we walk the mystical walk. Tune in and transform with me. Until next time, keep your spirits high and your magic untamed.